Previously, in the last episode, we talked about big data as the essential building block of a digital economy, how the National Data Bank can be used with possibly the help of a blockchain to get everyone included and participating in the digital economy. And in order to facilitate trade and value creation, there must be some form of resilient medium of exchange and store of value as the lifeblood of the economy, to which we identify as cryptocurrency, a digital money befitting a digital economy. What has been stopping the mass adoption of a truly digital money is the double spending problem. The ability to keep copying and pasting your money and endlessly spending it however you solve it. The blockchain solved that problem and issued the maiden cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, to pioneer a new age of a digital currency here to make some impact in the economic pursuit of mankind. But wait, is that it? We'll find that out. In this episode, we will first dive briefly on the surface with some light touch into the history of money, how it all started. We will surf through the timeline from the non-recorded beginning to the present day. Then we look at blockchain and cryptocurrency's application in the digital economy. With me, your public tech advisor, this is the Digital Economy series. So let's get you up to date. Money is the root of all evil? No. Money is an item you give to get something of value to you in return, or you give something of value to someone in return for money. Something of value here meaning a product or service that is of some benefit to you or to the person you are receiving the money from. Money is just a tool of exchange. You give to get or get to give. But who get to say what money should be, how to supply or measure it? Back in the olden days when the human societies were very small, small villages, barter could be used with no issues. You have some tomatoes, I have some potatoes. Give me some of your tomatoes for some of my potatoes. Everybody is happy, fries and ketchup. But as human societies start getting bigger, people start moving around in search of new opportunities, lands and resources. People start making things like tables, mirrors, bags, shoes, shovels and so on. Now barter starts to show some limitation because how many tomatoes or potatoes can I give you in exchange for a table or shoes? Big problem. What did we do? We started using precious metals like gold and silver or commodities that are regularly consumed as food and stored without damage for a time. For example, wheat, rice, corn, salt, and so on. This functions successfully as money for thousands of years through different civilizations and cultures, largely because the value of the money is inside the money, meaning precious metals and food commodities are used for many other things, not just as medium of exchange. And also the supply is regulated by nature. You can go and mine gold and silver, or you can go to the farm, plant, wait, and harvest your wheat, corn, or rice. The production requires a considerable amount of knowledge and effort. With this money economy, the human civilization thrives and keeps growing. We learned to mint the precious metals, mainly gold and silver, into coins for proper accounting, and trade was carried out across large distances. Men became wealthy and acquired lots of fine things from distant land, horses, properties, and many other discoveries. As trade grew, the need to carry large amount of gold and silver became an inconvenience. The weight and the security was just too much hassle. Big problem, but this time for the wealthy merchant. What did they do? They came up with the concept of representative money, a document, paper, coin, or some other token that can be reliably exchanged for a fixed quantity of real money, such as gold or silver. So a merchant will typically travel long distances and conduct trade with these tokens, and the tokens can later be redeemed for real money or exchanged further. This is generally an agreement between two trusted parties, not yet a legal tender. As trade flourished, new lands were conquered by humanity, and then we saw the rise and fall of great cultures, empires, and birth of nations. And these nations start to trade between themselves. This gives rise to international trade. And wherever there is trade, money is needed, hence the need for an international monetary system. More on this later. With this came governments to rule over this nation. You know what followed after? Tax. Government have to get some money. Of course, for security of life and property. Government of this nation took over monetary affairs by the concept of the central bank, run by powerful interests, mostly wealthy merchants. By declaring the representative money as legal tender, accepted, enforced, and honored by the might of the government. The money is printed and issued by the central bank based on the reserve of gold and silver, real money available. so they can only print as much paper as they have gold or silver available for. And people can bring in their gold or silver for safekeeping and be issued the paper representative equivalent. This money is still redeemable. Whenever you want, you can go to the bank, present your document, and get your gold or silver equivalent back. Life was still rosy. As government spending and debt increased, financing the discoveries and conquering of new lands, fighting wars, building we have arrived, castles and monuments, so does the appetite for more money. They began slowly printing more money than they have gold or silver for. The demonetization of gold and silver as money slowly and codedly began. Laws that banned the use of gold coins as money came in the 1930s, first by the US and then by others. It was full-on paper money from then on, followed by a series of currency devaluations from America to Europe. The more lands discovered and conquered, or should I say colonized, the more resources and more nations propped up everywhere. Plus the chaos of the Great Depression, more and more the need for an international standard for money in pursuit of the so-called free market economy. Hence the rise for an international monetary system for paper currency. The international monetary system was established at Bretton Woods in 1944, with basically the US dollar as the world reserve currency, replacing the old British Empire's sterling pound. At this point, the paper dollar was partly redeemable for gold, and all other currencies are pegged to the dollar at a rate set by God knows who. Up until 1971, when the US stopped the dollar from being converted to gold. Ladies and gents, the birth of a true fiat paper currency, money not backed by any real item of value that could be printed out of thin air and assign an arbitrary value. Bam! The party begins. So this is money, paper money that you and I have been using for all our transactions. Every local currency ever printed by the country's central bank for domestic use and convertible to the US dollar at a constantly fluctuating rate whenever you want to make an international purchase. And then there was fractional reserve banking, where banks licensed by the central bank can loan out money they have only a fraction of, then charge interest on the principal, the original money loaned, and expected to be paid back at a time in the future. If I'm a bank, for example, and I have $20 in my reserve, I can loan out $40 by simply creating an account and typing in $40 to the recipient, charge 10% interest, that is $4, and get $44 back at a time in the future. So if I do this a couple hundred times in a year, I make a killing, guaranteed by the law, supported by collateral, in case you want to play a fast one. Anywho, my story continues. Until 2008, after the global financial crisis, when a mysterious genius or victim of geniuses, we don't know, named Satoshi Nakamoto dropped a white paper that introduced the blockchain and the first cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, just as we saw in the 1930s after the Great Depression with the paper money shifts. The introduction of blockchain and Bitcoin coincided with the fourth industrial revolution, the digital age. It is somewhat challenging the status quo in that Satoshi pointed out that the instability and crisis of the financial system is caused by the inadequacies of the fractional reserve banking, creating of money out of nothing and loaning it out as real money to be paid back with interest. Along with Bitcoin comes a whole host of other cryptocurrencies that flooded the system based on the same blockchain technology, much like the US dollar as the reserve currency, with all other currencies pegged to the dollar at some ever-fluctuating rate. Satoshi's paper described the concept and implementation of the blockchain. Blockchain is an open distributed ledger that records transactions between two parties in a verifiable and permanent way. This is the public ledger for the Bitcoin cryptocurrency. Once data is recorded in the blockchain, it is permanently locked in by a strong one-way cryptography. It cannot be altered without altering the entire database. This is not your regular database hosted on a central server by some bank or financial institution. It is hosted on a peer-to-peer network where each party is its own server and has a copy of the ledger that is updated every time a transaction occurs in the network. Before a transaction is recorded, it must be verified as valid by a consensus of at least 51% of the network. Blockchain solves the double spending problem digital currency has, where you can copy and paste your money and spend it multiple times. Once the record of your money is marked as spent, meaning verified as valid on the blockchain, there is no changing or reusing it, thanks to the strong encryption. This automatically does away with the need for a trusted authority or a central server to verify your balance and transfers, so no banks. At At the heart of all cryptocurrencies is the blockchain, with Bitcoin as our reference currency, since it is the first and somehow like the reserve currency. Each account is identified by a key pair, a public key for receiving money, a private key for sending or spending money. Much like gold and silver, cryptocurrencies are mined into existence by using computational power and electricity to solve complex mathematical problems. Whoever gets the solution first is rewarded with Bitcoin and unlocks the next hash of the block in the chain. So as the next phase in the evolution of digital technology, call it the fourth industrial revolution if you like, Bitcoin and a host of other cryptos based on the blockchain are here to remove mediation in financial transactions, using cryptographic proof as an intangible replacement. I call it intangible because we are shifting trust from institution to basically complex proof. All transactions are contained in an open ledger, with copies distributed and updated across all parties involved. Whoever has crypto has a copy of the ledger. I know how that sounds and you are like, huh? But that's exactly what it is. The inherent weakness of a trust-based model, as Satoshi puts it in the original white paper, as a result of the human factor. Even though Satoshi Nakamoto acknowledges that no system is perfect by asserting that a certain percentage of fraud is accepted as unavoidable. So, in a typical digital economy, cryptocurrencies eliminate all bureaucratic bottlenecks in payment, in that you can send and receive money anywhere in the world at any time. There are typically no fees charged by the bank or middleman, but you can choose your own fees to make confirmation faster, to make transaction confirmation faster, or not. Payments are sent and received anonymously with no need for any personal information, and most sweetest of all, you can back up your money on any storage medium off the network. All cryptos generated and transacted from inception to date are visible to everyone in the open ledger, the blockchain, so you can see exactly how much is in circulation. But it is still fiat currency because the value of the money itself is still outside the money. In the end, it is just bits of ones and zeros running on computers. The concept and implementation is still in its early stages. It is not yet mature and large enough to take over from the current financial system. But in the context of a digital economy, cryptocurrencies are suitably made to facilitate the trade of digital goods and services. I think it can be a reliable supply of money that addresses the weaknesses of central banking and minting. What do you think? Have you heard of Bitcoin? Have you bought some? Do you trust that it will take over from the economy in the nearest future? Let's discuss in the comment section. Send me all your questions, I will try to answer them. Next up, we will discuss artificial intelligence, AI, the future labor in the digital economy.
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.
It's your public tech advisor. Thank you for watching. Till the next one.